Hello and welcome to episode number 366 of the TEW Challenge Run. This is going to be the first SmackDown branded premium live event since WrestleMania. It's going to be Judgment Day here in week 2 of May 2023. And we've got a stat card here for you tonight. We've got the main event, 6-man tag team match, Hell in a Cell, losers leave SmackDown. It'll be Roman Reigns and the Usos against Seth Rollins, Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. We've also got Carmelo Hayes, his first defense of the newly won World Heavyweight Championship against Pete Dunne. Candice LeRae defending the SmackDown title against Utami Hayashishita. We've also got a lot more to get into here tonight. And without any more further ado though, I'm looking at last year's Judgment Day. Dakota Kai defeated Bayley. Braun Breaker defeated Adam Cole. Aleister Black and Elias. Yeah, this seems like a year ago, indeed. Without any more further ado, let's jump straight into tonight's show. We start in the kickoff show with a 59 rated match, which, all things considered, isn't the worst. Considering this is the first ever match Mariah May's been a part of, and she got 13, so it doesn't really matter. It's on the kickoff show. It's Tiffany Stratton and Mariah May against DKE, and it's Tiffany and Mariah who pick up the win. Tiffany pins Hams with the PME, the prettiest moonsault ever. 13 for Mariah May, 42 for Tiffany, 59 for Hams, and a 75 for Morgan. So she's doing really well, but she does have that chemistry note. So like, if I took her away, would she be doing that good? I don't know. But yes, it is Tiffany and Mariah who pick up the win here tonight on the kickoff show. Hype package, the end of the world as you know it, or some shit like that. Judgment Day is here. And we're actually going to kick off the show with a 6-man tag team match. Fools count anywhere. It's the family. Tony D'Angelo, Channing Stacks Lorenzo, Troy 2 Dimes Donovan, along with Electra Mo Lopez and Big Problem Cass, taking on the Karrion Kross cult. Karrion Kross, Cutler and Carcass. And Tony and the family make their way out to the ring first when they're jumped by the Karrion Kross cult. And because this is Fools Count Anywhere, as soon as they're jumped, that's the start of the match, you know. And they just keep brawling around like the entryway, the ramp. Obviously, Big Cass can't get too physical because he's injured, so he's like, "Dawn, I'll wait in the back. I'll load it up." And he goes, "All right, I'll be with you. I'll be with you in a sec. And Tony and the crew like try and fight off the assault of the Karrion Kross cult. Tony's got a crowbar to even the odds and shit, and he crowbars Cutler in the back and tries to like fight off Carcass as well. But this immediately goes to the backstage area, and they brawl around hallways, they smash each other against the wall, crates and all sorts of shit, and Tony lays Karrion Kross out with a forget about it, gets the 1-2, and then Carcass breaks it up. And he's like, "Hey, wise guy, what you think you're doing here?" And he smacks Carcass and shit with the crowbar, stacks him 2 times, beat up Karrion Kross as like Tony like keeps brawling off with Carcass and Cutler, and then stacks and 2 times catch up with Tony like they've laid out Karrion Kross somewhere, and they're like in the parking area, and Big Cass is there and Electra's there in a car. He's like, "Quick, load it up," and they load up the trunk of the car, and he smashes Karrion Carcass and Cutler on the head with a crowbar, and like shuts them in the trunk, smashes their head against the trunk, traps them in the trunk, and he goes, "Quick, get away from me, you know, we got this one." And then as they rev up the car, Karrion Kross catches up, like, "Oh no, you fucking don't," and he like grabs onto the back of the car, and the car drives away. Carcass and Cutler in the boot, and Karrion Kross hanging off like the tail. And then we just sort of watch them drive off into the distance. And we come back to the announcers. They're like, "Well, I guess we'll get back to that at some point later." And like there's just like a couple of like seconds of confusion, and then Bayley's music hits. She's got a mic, and she's like, "Ding dong, okay, I don't know what that was. Okay, those guys really want to prove who the top guys here on SmackDown are, and well, they're out of my way, so this show can continue because your role model is here." And there's this woman, Asuka, I think she's got in my head, okay, she got Dakota's head. She missed poor Cora in the eyes, my poor beloved best friend Cora Jade. And now she's up against me. She thinks she's got what it takes to beat me. Okay, listen, you may have got the jump on Dakota. You may have got the jump on Cora, but I'm ready for you, Asuka. You say nobody's ready for you. I am. Bring your ass out here right now. So before I move on, yeah, effectively we're doing the Dean Ambrose Luke Harper bit of this Falls Count Anywhere match where they've driven off, and we'll get back to them at some point later on in the show, but the show will continue while that's all going on in the background elsewhere. So they've driven off, cameras are trying to catch up to Tony D'Angelo's car, and for now, we're actually going to get our first actual match of the night, Bayley versus Asuka, which gets a 70, which is probably about as high as it can get because of the length. Bayley lasts a little bit longer than both Cora and Dakota, but in the end she does succumb to the mist, the same mist that wiped out Cora Jade, and then the Asuka, or the big kick probably, and 1, 2, 3, Asuka pins the third and final member of Damage Control here tonight. 86 for Asuka, 83 for Bayley. So 70 for the match is really shit, but you know, these Asuka matches aren't going very long, so they're capped in that regard to start with. But yeah, Asuka puts a bow on things with Damage Control. She can probably burn that last piece of paper she had hanging off her string and look ahead to what's next for the Empress of Tomorrow. And as for Bayley, she's being checked on with like the towels and shit because she's got the mist in her eyes, basically the same way that Cora Jade did. We then head back to Adam Pearce's office, and he's just overlooking the show when in walks L.A. Knight. He goes, Pierce, let me talk to you. Okay, listen here. I know you saw SmackDown, because you're the general manager of things. You run the show, yeah? Yeah. Well, you saw the main event, when you saw all L.A. Knight's team pick up the win in the main event of SmackDown. I know you saw that, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so what I'm thinking is, you got a megastar like L.A. Knight, who you've been holding down for so goddamn long on this brand, finally gets a chance to break out. And now, with Starrcade on the horizon, who better to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship than L.A. Knight himself? Yeah. And then what's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? And Kev's like, well, actually, buddy, you might have a bit short-term memory because if you don't remember, I scored the win in that match, not you. So if anybody should get that shot at Carmelo Hayes for that World Heavyweight Championship, it's me. And then Sami goes, well, Kev, you make a lot of great points, but if you consider a third option, you know, LA Knight was in that team and Kevin Owens was on that team, so why can't Sami Zayn get a championship opportunity against Carmelo Hayes at Starrcade? And then Dolph Ziggler walks in. He goes, boys, you're all wondering about who's getting this match at Starrcade, okay? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Kevin Owens? Is it going to be Sami Zayn? Is it going to be LA Knight? And then on LA Knight off mic, he just goes, yeah. He goes, well, I'll tell you what. It ain't going to be any of you three because this is a new World Heavyweight Champion we're talking about, and it's basically custom at this point that DZ gets a crack at the World Champion when he comes around. So, with me on the run of my lifetime, 2 wins over a guy named Logan Paul. I don't know if you've heard of him. Quite frankly, I think Pierce, I should be next in line for a World Heavyweight Championship match. Pierce like, well, that sure is a lot to take in. There's a lot of challenges breathing down the neck of the champion, whoever it may be, whether it be Carmelo Hayes or Pete Dunne. I'll tell you what, next Friday on SmackDown, fatal 4-way match. It'll be Dolph Ziggler versus LA Knight versus Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, and the winner of that match will go on to Starrcade to wrestle the World Heavyweight Champion. Happy? And they all leave. They all disperse. LA Knight obviously walking off in the crowd. You can see him go, yeah, in the background. And Pierce, just starts rubbing his head. When Paul Heyman walks in. And he goes, can I help you, Mr. Heyman? He goes, Mr. Pierce, you appear to be swept off your feet tonight here at Judgment Day. He goes, tell me about it. You know, you've had this job before, so you know what it's like when too many wrestlers get up in your grill. Yes, Mr. Pierce, I know more than anybody how much it takes for angry wrestlers to come storming into my office. I did it when I was a SmackDown general manager. I did it before that, as you may recall, but I've come to you with a proposition that will help you, a proposition that will help me, and a proposition that may end up having to help your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Pierce goes, great, lay it on me. And then Heyman sort of just looks across. He look like he sees the camera in the room, and he goes, let's just do this in quiet. Come on, come on. He sort of like escorts the cameraman away, and the cameraman leaves the office, so we don't actually get to hear what Heyman and Pierce are talking about. 85. I knew this would get a good rating. I knew that Bryan and Cesaro would carry an absolute banger out of Aussie Open, and they did. And it is a title defense. You know, I think I did a decent job making them look like good challengers, because they beat a couple of credible teams. They beat the Limit Breakers. But obviously, I'm not flipping the belts this early, so a tough loss, but an eye-opening loss for the challengers here tonight. But Cesaro does pin Kyle and Rogers, or submit him with a sharpshooter according to the game, but I imagine a pin, to make defense number 2 of the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Cesaro gets an 82, a 95 for Daniel Bryan, a 58 for Brad Sawyer, and a 64 for Kyle and Rogers. And yeah, the SmackDown Tag Team Championship reign of Daniel Bryan and Cesaro marches forward with a big win here at Judgment Day. We then get the best that it could probably do, because I'm not having this match go very long ever at all. In 5 minutes 41, Keith Lee pins Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. Keith gets a 79, a 31 for Scott. And yeah, sadly, it's not to be for the big bad booty daddy here tonight. Then after the match, Bron Breakker gets into the ring. Keith calls him into the ring, and Bron raises Keith's arm, and they look down at Scott Steiner. And Keith, he walks over to Scott. He offers his hand up, and he pulls Scott Steiner to his feet. And he goes to offer a handshake to Scott Steiner. And Steiner looks down in disgust. He goes, I ain't gonna shake your hand, you got lucky, huh? Fight me one more time and I'll have you this time, I swear. And Keith goes, relax, 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 Scott. It's over, okay? It's over. And Scott, he just sort of stands there. He looks at Bron. He looks at Keith. He looks back at Bron. He sort of gives a nod and he goes, yeah, it is over. And then Keith turns around and Bron tears Keith Lee in half with a spear. The crowd is in absolute disgust and shock. Bron Breakker has just speared his tag team partner in half. And then Scott Steiner's shouting instructions, and then Scott Steiner telling Bron Breakker to keep beating him up. I actually imagine Bron gets him up for that power slam, that deadlift power slam where he lifts Keith Lee above his head and then slams him down, because that would look impressive. And then I imagine Scott Steiner would get a chain or something, wrap it around Keith, and Bron would lock in the Steiner recliner on Keith Lee as he passes out, as Bron Breakker's the referee can't pull him off. But Keith fading out in the Steiner recliner. And then Scott Steiner, as soon as Bron lets go, he goes, come on, kid. You got work to do. And Bron Breakker follows his uncle out, leaving Keith Lee a mess on the floor. Another 70 rated match. This one I think is actually just how good it was, and not it got capped for the time. It's going to be Tatum and Ivy challenging Live for Battle for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Tatum and Ivy won 2 matches on Monday. They won on Raw, and then they won the actual Fatal 4-Way qualifying match itself. And yeah, 2 babyface teams going at it here tonight. And in 10 minutes and 31 seconds, we have new Women's Tag Team Champions. Tatum Paxley pins Liv. Imagine she rolls Liv up 1, 2, 3 to steal the championships. Well, not steal, but win them via fast count. Not fast count, fucking fast roll up. No, there's no nefarious means about it. She won clean, but with a roll up. 53 by Ivy, 56 by Tatum, 73 for Shida, and a 71 for Liv. So, a reign that actually seems like it's been going on longer than it has, because they won them on the last week of January. Liv and Shida, that is. But because they took him to Mania and beyond, it seemed like it's been going on for longer than that, but it hasn't. But yeah, still a very good reign, I think, in general. Because they've defended it a lot, including at WrestleMania. And yeah, it was just time to move Liv and Shida into SmackDown singles division. And I have a thing planned for these tag titles that requires Tatum and Ivy to have the belts. So they've got them. And yeah, who doesn't like a fun upset win every now and again? We then cut back to Karrion Kross, Colt, and Carcass and Cutler and the D'Angelo family. I imagine they've like stopped for gas or something. And they see Karrion at the back of, on the back of their car. Like, hey, look, it's this guy. And they start beating him up and they start brawling around a petrol station. Carcass and Cutler get out of the trunk and they join in on the fight. And I imagine there's also a spot Karrion would have one of the Tony D'Angelo's boys down. They'd pour petrol on him, and then he'd go to set him alight because he's an edgy boy. But Tony would save the day of a crowbar assault, saving his boy from getting burnt alive, and just a brawl around. Yeah, tossing him into the paper stack at the front. I don't know if American petrol stations look the same as they do here, but I'm imagining them just brawling around like a shell. Which is, I guess, it wouldn't actually look like. But in the end, of course, the fight's still... There's a couple of, actually, we do get a couple of counts. The referee has come with him. And there's no pinfalls, though. And in the end, back into the trunk go Carcass and Cutler, and they leave Karrion laying on the floor, and they drive away. This time, making sure they leave Karrion not on the car. But Karrion gets up as he sees the car driving away, goes, "Oh no, you fucking don't!" And he chases after the car. Hype video for the SmackDown Women's title match. Candice LeRae against Utami. You know, two very different stories here. An underdog who was told she'd never make it here against the big signing, the big international signing who had the red carpet rolled out, who's not really been successful. While Candice has, despite being the one who shouldn't have ever been here. They're going to go one-on-one here tonight. In an 85, that's probably bang on like what I expected. Go 17-42. We want to tell that story throughout the entire match of Utami is still, like, she doesn't want to, like, try and... But she'd be, by proxy, playing heel in this match because Candice is our babyface champion, so... she'd by proxy be playing heel, but it's like she's trying to like prove everybody that she can get the title, but that may sometimes require like the odd eye poke or something like that. And in the end, she has the chance to probably put it away via nefarious means, but chooses not to, and that's what catches her off guard. Candice hits an enziguri, lion salt, and gets the win. Take turns number 2 of the SmackDown Women's title. 88 for Candice, 85 for Utami. Candice actually outscored. That's actually rare, but it's fine. Still, SmackDown Women's Champion is Candice LeRae. We then get hype video turned Cypher hit row featuring Rick Ross and his accusations, because we've got the dream match coming up next, ladies and gentlemen. It's Swerve Scott teaming with Rick Ross against Matt Riddle and the DOGG Snoop Doggy Dogg. I guess to put a exclamation mark on this feud once and for all. And no title on the line, it's just going to be Swerve and Rick against Matt and Snoop. I'm not writing out a Hit Row X Rick Ross rap, you can imagine it in your head. But the match happens. It's a fucking 81. Yeah, Rick Ross gets a couple of power spots in. Snoop hits a doggy destroyer. I was going to say on Swerve, probably actually on Ashanti, because he'd probably be at ringside. And, yeah. But in the end, the two rappers cancel each other out and they fight on the outside, and Swerve cheats. Title shot, Swerve stomp, and Swerve pins Matt Riddle once again. Riddle just cannot beat this man. And Swerve and Rick Ross get the victory. 93 for Swerve, 84 for Matt Riddle, 33 for Snoop, and a 46 for Rick Ross. Nice. And yeah, that is it. A match that once I knew that Snoop and all these were getting involved in the feud, I knew I had to book. And I've got it out of my system now, so we move. We move on with Swerve still champion. And a victory victorious here at Judgment Day. Hype video. Io and Kairi part 2. This time it's Evil Kairi against the Joshi Judas herself, Io Sky. Cammy narrating a video package about their history and how this is going to be, you know, this isn't going to be Kairi Sane against the Io Shirai you used to know. This is going to have to be two sick, twisted women who've had to go to the depths to try and find their sick and inner sick mind, I guess. And then Kairi put the face paint on and we got Evil Kairi against Io in a match. It only gets an 81. Yeah, because I know why. Because I had to keep Io strong, because, well, we've tied things up here. Kairi pins Io with an insane elbow after, like, I imagine, like, Io would accidentally hit Cammy off the apron or something, and that would distract her. Spear, insane elbow. I had to keep Io strong, because I don't want her to lose popularity, because it's Io. But Evil Kairi done it. Evil Kairi beat Io. Albeit by, you know, a distraction by accidentally knocking Cammy off the apron. But she has scored a win here. And they now got one win over each other each. So, Speaking of champions, nobody mentioned champions, but here is a champion. Here's him, Carmelo Hayes, the new World Heavyweight Champion, coming up for his first championship defense against Pete Dunne, the man who won the title from Gunther, the man who held it for about 5 minutes before Melo cashed in. One-on-one, fair and square, here tonight. The match gets a 95, and yeah, Melo retains. I'm not going to hide it. Obviously, Carmelo Hayes retains, probably via some Trick Williams shenanigans. Trips up Pete Dunne's legs or whatever, nothing but net. 1, 2, 3 for a 95 to make defense number 1 of the World Heavyweight title. 88 for Carmelo Hayes, 85 for Pete Dunne. And the him era, continues here tonight with a big win for the new World Heavyweight Champion, Carmelo Hayes. We then cut back to where else but a random field by a lake. And Tony D'Angelo, he goes, come on, get him out, get him out, get him out, get him out. And Carcass and Cutler are dumped out by the edge of the lake. And the D'Angelo family are, like, circling them 5-on-2. And they go, let this be a lesson, wise guys. Huh? You mess with the family, huh? This what's gonna happen. Okay? And then they probably slam the boot of the car on one of their arms. And they scream in pain and carry and they go, stop! Stop! You win, alright? You win. And Tony goes, look at this. It's just Karrion Kross submitting to us. And he goes, never, but leave my friends alone. Tony goes, come over here and finish the fight then. And then Karrion Kross and Tony D brawl at it. They do that hockey fight spot. And Karrion tries to put him down. He grabs something off the floor, and a piece of broken glass or something off the ground, tries to, like, stab it into Tony's face. But Stacks and Two Dimes grab him, pull him off. Tony hits that forget about it. And he pins Karrion Kross to win the match. And he looks down. Let this be a lesson, okay, of who runs the yard here on SmackDown, because it ain't you, it's us, okay? And then we turn back around and we see Carcass and Cutler at the behest of Tony D. He goes, now let this be a lesson, wise guy. When you mess with the family, things are gonna get ugly, okay? Now your friends over there, they're gonna be sleeping with the fishes. And the unconscious Carcass and Cutler are dumped into the lake. And Tony goes, he sort of just walks over to Karen, he pats him on the face, and he goes, "See you next week, buddy." And they all drive off. And then Carrion sort of slowly gets to his feet. And he's like, "Carcass. Cuddler. Kids." And then the ending shot of the lake with the ominous implications of Carcass and Cutler have been whacked. So, the contracts of both Carcass and Cutler are coming up shortly, and I have another direction I want to take the Karrion Kross character. So, I literally only booked this feud and match so I could have them get whacked as a write-off for Carcass and Cutler. Yeah, it was funny when I got a comment of somebody that was like, "Oh," it was on Backlash. They're like, "Oh, you put a live murder of Edge right before the main event." And I was like, funny that, yeah. That will never happen again. Anyway, now on to the main event. Yep. This is it. The end is here. The Hell in a Cell being lowered. The Bloodlines, Roman Reigns, Jimmy and Jey Uso against Seth Rollins, Sheikha Fatu, and Solo Sikoa. End of the line here. One final battle. Losers are gone from SmackDown. And the match gets a 97. That's fucking great. Sure, I'll take that. The match goes for 28-44. And yeah, it's got all the drama you can imagine, you know. Solo against his brothers. The Usos find Solo and Jacob. Roman and Seth going at it. But in the end, what it comes down to is the Usos in the ring with Solo Sikoa. And they're like, "Oos. Like, come on, look at this, Oos. Look what's happened to us. Huh? You gonna let this man break up our family, Oos? Listen, we forgive you, Oos. Blood is thicker than everything. You know? If we'll bring you back to SmackDown. Just let the Bloodline be whole once again. We can't let him win." And then we see Seth like slowly pull into his feet, like up against the ropes, like in the back of the shot. He goes, "Oos, listen to me, I'm your brother. What's he, Oos?" And then Solo sort of slowly looks down at his thumb, and he slowly turns his head to Seth Rollins. And Seth, he's like, No. Solo, listen. They abandoned you all those years, huh? Remember? They abandoned you. They didn't care about you. They only want you now. You're a success. Okay, I was here. I was the one who molded you into the man you are now. Solo, listen to me. They're not your family. We're your family. You may be related by blood to those, but I'm the one who cares about you, Solo. They just want to use you. They just want to use you like Roman's using his other cousins, your brothers. And Solo, he looks down. He like gets the formation for the Samoan spike out, and he grabs Seth Rollins by the throat and he goes to deliver that spike to Seth. Then he turns around, he nails Jimmy Uso with the spike, and then Jey tries to fight off with Seth. Seth takes him down, and then we see Roman pulling up from the other side of the ring. Jacob Fatu also stirs, and he stands by Seth. So the scene is Seth in the middle of the ring on his feet, and Solo and Jacob behind him. Roman the other side of the ring on his feet, and the Usos laid out on the floor on Roman's side. And he goes, Look around you, Chief." He does. He takes the time to sort of inspect the situation. He goes, "Your kingdom, it's gone. It's all come crashing down. And it's not Jay's fault. It's not Jimmy's fault. It's all your fault, Roman. You did all of this. You've ended your own family. So now, I hope you can look in the mirror and realize what you've done." And he sort of pie faces Roman, shoves him to the back. Roman gets pissed off, spears a hole through Seth Rollins. But then Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa immediately like jump him, like grab him. And I imagine they've got a handcuff, so they handcuff Roman to the bottom rope. And then Seth gets his face, he starts whacking him with a kendo stick. And he goes, "Silly, now you can watch as the bloodline rests in peace. Look at me, Roman, look at me." He like holds the stick under his chin. So he's forcing Roman to look in his eyes. And he goes, "I won. This is the face of the man who ended your reign of terror." He slams the kendo stick down. He stamps Jey Uso's head into the mat. And he just rolls Jey over. Roman still watching on handcuff, trying to fight free. And Seth just hooks Jey's leg, staring into Roman's eyes. 1, 2, 3. It's over. Seth won. The Joker won. 77 for Jey and Jimmy, 95 for Roman, 88 for Jacob Fatu, 74 for Solo, 95 for Seth. And the Bloodline's gone. Bloodline has to leave SmackDown. And they can't just go to Raw either, because that's just shit and cringe. So this very well could be it. This could very well have been the last scene of the Bloodline here in WWE. Imagine Roman gets unhandcuffed. And he sort of looks down. He doesn't check on the Usos, he sort of just stands to his feet. And he looks down almost in disgust, like, why the fuck did you lose, mate? And then the Usos get to their feet. And they're both like, well, I imagine there's one of each of Roman's feet, like as they're crawling up, they like grab his trousers, they like pull themselves up and all that. That scene. And like, "Oos, I'm sorry, Oos. We let you down, my tribal chief. We let the whole family down." And Roman's like, "Yeah, you did." Then in the background you see Heyman. He's sort of just standing there. He's not looking as concerned as anybody else. He goes, "Come, my tribal chief. Let's let these two think about what they did. We have something we must talk about." And him and Roman leave. And the Usos just laid out on the floor. Imagine they collapse. As soon as Roman walks off, because they were using him to hold themselves up, they just sort of collapse back down to the floor. And the scene, we end the show with the Usos laid out in the ring. And Roman and Heyman just walking to the back. Walking out on his cousins. Possibly for the last time. 94 rated pay-per-view. I didn't buy any of the special sets or A-list celebrities. I probably could have because Snoop was on the show. But, I didn't. But, yeah. That's the end of Judgment Day. A pay-per-view I've been waiting to get to for a long time because a lot of exciting stuff has been built up here. This was the end of a lot of exciting things and the continuation of some and the start of new ones. So, what matters more is what you thought of the show. Do let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I'll see you next time for Raw as we continue the build to Starrcade. See you then.